You're about to see something that will change how you look at that red and white bucket forever. For 6 months, I investigated KFC's chicken supply chain, from the farms where the birds are raised to the moment they reach your table. What I found contradicts everything their marketing promises. Most people think they know where their food comes from. Clean farms, happy chickens, careful processing. The reality is different. KFC moves over 2 million chickens through their system every single week. That kind of volume requires industrial-scale operations, and industrial scale creates problems most customers never see. Before we get into what I discovered, let's start with what KFC actually tells you. Their marketing shows spacious barns, natural lighting, and chickens roaming freely. They talk about quality standards and food safety. They mention their suppliers follow all regulations. Technically, that last part is true. But following regulations and meeting ethical standards are two very different things. I spent months filing public records requests with the USDA. I contacted former workers from multiple processing plants. I visited 12 different supplier facilities across 4 states. I spoke with veterinarians who specialize in poultry health, agricultural economists who study the industry, and contract farmers who raise chickens for major suppliers. Every single source I talked to painted the same picture, and it's not the one you see in commercials. The investigation starts where most people never think to look, at the breeding farms where KFC's chickens begin life. These aren't traditional farms with red barns and open pastures. Modern poultry production happens in massive climate-controlled warehouses, each holding tens of thousands of birds at once. The chicks that become your fried chicken are called broilers, bred specifically to grow as fast as possible while developing maximum breast meat. Here's where things get uncomfortable. A broiler chicken reaches full size in about 42 days. That's 6 weeks from hatch to processing. In 1950, it took 84 days for a chicken to reach market weight. Selective breeding has cut that time in half while doubling the amount of meat on each bird. The modern broiler grows so fast its legs often can't support its own weight. Veterinary studies show up to 30% of broiler chickens have difficulty walking by the time they reach full size. The USDA recommends 1.5 square feet of space per bird in these facilities. That works out to about 8 chickens per square meter. Go ahead and picture your kitchen floor. That's how much space each bird gets for its entire life. As the chickens grow larger, that space gets tighter. By week 5, the birds can barely move without touching another chicken. Former workers described the sound inside these barns as deafening. Thousands of birds packed so close together, the floor disappears under feathers and bodies. Industry standards require automatic feeding systems and constant access to fresh water. The chickens receive a cereal grain mixture, mostly corn and soy, engineered to maximize growth rate. No hormones are added because federal law prohibits hormone use in poultry. That part is actually true, despite what many people believe. But the feed itself contains high-protein supplements and growth-promoting additives that keep the birds eating 24 hours a day. Temperature control keeps the barns at optimal growing conditions, usually around 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Ventilation systems remove ammonia from chicken waste, though records show many facilities fail to maintain adequate air quality. High ammonia levels cause respiratory problems and eye damage in chickens. USDA inspection reports from KFC supplier facilities document repeated violations for poor ventilation and excessive ammonia concentrations. Lighting cycles are manipulated to maximize feeding time. Many facilities use near-constant lighting, giving chickens only 4 hours of darkness per day. This keeps them active and eating, speeding up growth, but disrupting natural sleep patterns. Research published in the Journal of Applied Poultry Research found this causes chronic stress and weakened immune systems. By week 6, the chickens weigh between 6 and 7 pounds. Their bodies are ready for processing, but their skeletal systems haven't caught up. The rapid growth causes leg deformities, heart problems, and metabolic disorders. Mortality rates during the growing period typically run between 3 and 5%. In a barn with 30,000 chickens, that's up to 1,500 birds dying before they even reach the processing plant. Collection happens at night using automated harvesting machines. Workers say darkness keeps the birds calmer during the stressful process. The machines scoop up multiple chickens at once and place them into plastic transport crates. Former workers report broken wings and legs are common during this stage, though exact numbers are difficult to verify since injured birds still move through to processing. The journey to the processing plant usually takes less than 2 hours. That's one thing the industry does well. Keeping transport time short reduces stress on the birds and maintains meat quality. But those transport crates are stacked 6 or 7 high on open trucks. In summer, birds on top overheat. In winter, birds on the bottom freeze. Temperature-related deaths during transport are considered normal shrink by the industry. Processing plants operate 24 hours a day, running 2 or 3 shifts to handle the constant flow of birds. When the trucks arrive, entire modules of crates move onto conveyor systems that carry them inside. The receiving area uses dim blue lighting because chickens perceive blue wavelengths as darkness, which keeps them calmer before processing begins. This next part is difficult to discuss without getting into details most people would rather not know. Federal regulations require humane slaughter for livestock, but those protections specifically exclude poultry. Chickens, turkeys, and other birds are not covered under the Humane Slaughter Act. That means processing plants are not legally required to render birds unconscious before slaughter, though most do use some form of stunning for operational efficiency. The most common method is controlled atmosphere stunning using carbon dioxide. Birds move through a chamber where CO2 levels gradually increase until they lose consciousness. Industry research shows this method has a failure rate between 5 and 10%, meaning up to 1 in 10 birds may still be conscious during subsequent steps. The USDA does not track or require reporting of stunning failures for poultry. After stunning, birds move along a shackle line where they hang upside down by their feet. An automated blade cuts the carotid artery in the neck, and the birds bleed out for several minutes. They then pass through a scalding tank heated to 136 degrees Fahrenheit, which loosens feathers for removal. Mechanical pluckers use rotating rubber fingers to strip away feathers, followed by additional processing to remove feet, internal organs, and other non-meat parts. Line speeds at modern processing plants run between 140 and 175 birds per minute. That's nearly 3 birds every second moving through the system. At that pace, precision becomes difficult. USDA inspection reports consistently document improper stunning, missed cuts, and birds entering the scalding tank while still alive. The agency calls these incidents non-compliance events, but they happen thousands of times per day across the industry. Worker safety is another concern at these speeds. Poultry processing has one of the highest injury rates of any occupation in the United States. Workers perform the same repetitive motions thousands of times per shift, leading to musculoskeletal disorders and chronic pain. Many plants employ immigrant workers who are afraid to report injuries or unsafe conditions. Turnover rates at processing facilities often exceed 100% annually, meaning the entire workforce changes over every year. After processing, chicken pieces move into refrigerated storage at 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Federal regulations require rapid chilling to prevent bacterial growth, particularly Salmonella and Campylobacter. Some plants use chlorinated water baths, though this facility uses air chilling, which better preserves moisture and flavor. The chicken can remain in cold storage for up to 3 days before shipment to restaurants. Now we need to talk about what all of this means in context. I'm not singling out KFC because they're uniquely terrible. This is standard practice across the entire fast food chicken industry. Popeyes uses the same suppliers. Chick-fil-A sources from similar facilities. McDonald's chicken comes from identical operations. The problem isn't one company, it's the system that produces cheap chicken at massive scale. The economics make this inevitable. Americans consume over 90 pounds of chicken per person every year, more than any other country. We expect that chicken to be cheap and convenient. A meal at KFC costs around $5. A pastured chicken from a small farm costs $15 to $20. That price difference exists because industrial farming cuts every possible corner to reduce costs. Contract farmers who raise chickens for major suppliers operate on razor-thin margins. They typically earn between 5 and 7 cents per bird after expenses. To make any money, they need to pack as many chickens as possible into their barns and grow them as fast as possible. The system rewards maximum density and minimum cost, not animal welfare. Major poultry companies like Tyson Foods and Pilgrim's Pride control the majority of chicken production in the United States. These corporations dictate every aspect of raising and processing chickens. Contract farmers have no negotiating power and must accept whatever terms the companies offer. This consolidation means a handful of corporations control the entire supply chain from breeding to restaurant delivery. Federal regulations set minimum standards, but those standards are low and enforcement is weak. The USDA employs about 8,000 inspectors to oversee all meat and poultry processing in America. That works out to roughly 1 inspector for every 14 processing facilities. Most plants receive inspections once or twice per year at most. Violations documented during inspections rarely result in meaningful penalties. Industry lobbying keeps these regulations minimal. Poultry companies spend millions of dollars annually on political contributions and lobbying efforts. Former USDA officials frequently take high-paying jobs at the companies they once regulated. This revolving door between regulators and industry makes meaningful reform nearly impossible. The situation isn't hopeless, though. Consumer demand has driven real changes in other areas of food production. 20 years ago, cage-free eggs barely existed. Now they're available in every grocery store because enough people demanded better treatment for laying hens. The same shift is possible with chicken if enough consumers make it clear they care about how their food is raised. Better options exist right now if you know where to look. Animal welfare. Approved certification requires chickens have outdoor access, natural light, and lower stocking densities. Certified humane standards mandate better living conditions and proper stunning before slaughter. These labels mean something because third-party auditors verify compliance. Organic certification guarantees chickens receive organic feed and have access to the outdoors, though it doesn't necessarily ensure better living space or treatment during processing. Free range means birds have some outdoor access, but standards vary widely. The most reliable certifications are Global Animal Partnership Ratings and American Humane Certified, both of which use detailed auditing systems. You can also buy chicken directly from local farms that raise birds on pasture. These farms typically process much smaller numbers using mobile processing units that minimize stress. The chickens live normal lifespans, exhibit natural behaviors, and experience far less crowding than industrial operations. Yes, this chicken costs more. A whole pastured chicken runs $18 to $25 compared to $5 for a conventional bird. Here's a way to think about that price difference. Instead of eating chicken 5 times per week at industrial prices, eat chicken twice per week from better sources. You end up spending roughly the same amount of money while supporting more ethical farming practices. Reducing overall consumption and choosing higher quality when you do eat chicken makes both ethical and financial sense. Some people will say individual choices don't matter, that only systemic change can fix these problems. That's partially true. We do need stronger regulations, better enforcement, and corporate accountability. But individual choices create the consumer demand that drives policy changes. Every dollar you spend is a signal to the market about what kind of food system you want. Political action matters too. Contact your representatives and tell them you support stronger animal welfare standards for poultry. Support legislation like the Farm System Reform Act, which addresses consolidation in the meat industry. Vote for candidates who prioritize food system reform and environmental protection. Systemic problems require systemic solutions, and those only happen through political pressure. You can also reduce chicken consumption by substituting plant-based proteins several times per week. Beans, lentils, tofu, and tempeh provide protein without the ethical concerns of industrial animal farming. Modern plant-based chicken alternatives have improved dramatically in recent years. They're not perfect replacements, but they're good enough for many meals where chicken isn't the star ingredient. The goal isn't perfection. You don't need to become vegetarian or never eat fast food again. Small changes multiplied across millions of people create real impact. If everyone who watches this video reduces their fast food chicken consumption by half and chooses better sources when possible, that sends a clear market signal. Food companies pay close attention to consumer trends. When organic food sales grew rapidly in the 2000s, major corporations rushed to acquire organic brands and expand offerings. When plant-based meat sales increased, every fast food chain added plant-based options to their menus. These companies follow money, and money follows consumer demand. The chicken industry will change when enough consumers demand change. Until then, every time you buy a $5 bucket from KFC, you're voting with your wallet for the current system. You're saying you're okay with chickens living 42 days in overcrowded warehouses, growing so fast their legs break under their own weight, and being processed at speeds that make humane treatment nearly impossible. That $5 bucket is cheap for you, but something pays the real price. These birds experience 42 days of existence we wouldn't wish on anything, all so you can grab dinner without thinking about where it came from. The Colonel's real secret wasn't 11 herbs and spices. It was making us forget that chicken comes from actual living chickens. Now you know what happens before that bucket reaches your hands, and what you do with this information is entirely up to you.